Hey Dan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. Daniel, aka Dan Gomer, for the audience. So we got this right. Welcome to the show. Thanks for taking the time to join me.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the invite to come on here. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is going to be quite an interesting conversation. I was thinking to myself before we could come onto the show, there's going to be so many listeners who are going to look at the title of the show and be wondering why is Kino talking about real estate on a show that is built for creators? And here's the thing, just to answer this question for the listeners, no matter which industry you are from, there is creators, innovators, and trendsetters. And Dan is one of those guys who is a trendsetter and redefining the real estate industry. And that, for me personally, is being a creator. Like, you can't limit the word creator to an author, an illustrator, a musician. In each industry, there are creators and innovators. That's my answer to that question. So some clarity for the listeners, because I would also think that, here's a podcast dedicated to this specific niche. And here we are talking about real estate,
Yeah.
which audiences are going to know, once they read the title of the show. But then once again, thank you so much for joining me. So let's get to it. You are redefining the real estate industry, and correct me if I'm wrong or if I pronounced this wrong. You are the founder of ReAlto Partners. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yep.
Am I saying that correct? And the slogan for the company is empowering people through real estate. Now, before I hand it over to you, I just also want to mention this. You don't just sell real estate, you transform lives through your commitment to personal growth and positive impact. So, then, the simplest question I could ever ask you, enlighten me, enlighten listeners. What exactly does this mean? What does it entail? What exactly do you do?
Yeah. Well, so you had mentioned earlier about a creator, and what do creators and innovators do? And so you talked about real estate as well. And so for me, when you think about it from a place of a creator, I kind of look at it as real estate is like it's the vehicle. It's what we leverage to create something for the people that are on our team. And so the reason that is the tagline for the team, improving lives through real estate, is because it's not about making money. That's an aspect of it. It's not about selling a ton of houses. That's an aspect of it. But really, it's about improving your life as an agent, as a human being, on this team, in this community, in this organization. How can we collectively make your life better? And in turn, make the lives of the people that you're serving, whether that's your clientele, whether it's your family, whether it's your friends, all of these people. It's a much bigger approach to improving our lives through the vehicle of real estate. And so, going back to this idea of a creator, that's what I wanted to create. And I have written books, and I leverage those books within my real estate team. I've written a personal growth and development book. Um, so I do create on that front, but really, what I want to create, the way that I put it is, I want to create a space, a platform, an opportunity for people to become a better version of themselves. And that's really about it. It just happens to be through the vehicle of real estate.
So, why real estate? What attracted you to real estate?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, this.
So I used to be a middle school science teacher. And ever since I was in middle school, actually, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I thought I wanted to be an elementary school teacher. Just never worked out that way. I ended up teaching eighth grade science for 7 years, coached high school basketball. And, after about 7 years of just being in the grind of public education, it was wearing on me, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to stay. And so I spent about 2 years on this journey of just asking everybody I met, what do you do for a living? What do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And I was asking all these people and all these questions, and I'm like, man, I wouldn't leave teaching for that and not that. And eventually, and it's funny, I never ran into a real estate agent. Go figure. I mean, I guess I was late 20s. I mean, maybe I wasn't on anybody's radar, but Anyway, so I hired a business coach. And the idea was I was going to go see this lady 3 times and she was going to help me figure out what I was going to do next. And the morning before I was supposed to go see her, I had one of those waking dreams. And I kind of like woke up and I was like, oh, real estate, duh. I should go into real estate. I'm going to do fix and flips. I have a construction background. It sounded fun. It sounded interesting. I'm always watching the shows on it. Like, let's go do that. So I show up to this lady to her office and I'm like, hey, I don't expect a refund or anything, but this is going to be the easiest 3 sessions of your life. I think I've already figured it out. And we talked about it for about 20 minutes. And I was like, see you later, so yeah, it took me a while and, a lot of not even soul searching, what I would say, curiosity. It took me a lot of curiosity and just staying in the curiosity over an extended period of time before I finally landed on, oh yeah, this seems like a good fit.
Yeah. You know what's intriguing about what you just said? It's like you never know who you're really meant to be. There's no age, linked to it or pinned down to it. I mean, you were a teacher. That's how you started off, your journey. And down the line, you realize, whoa, hold on, this is not for me. Something is not right. I'm not like fully fulfilled. I've been there myself as well, personally. And
Right.
then, you wake up one day and you're like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take that jump, that leap of faith. And I mean, anyone out there who does that, including yourself, like should feel totally proud, of making that move for yourself and feeling fulfilled, no matter what it may be, even if it's real estate. I mean, when we talk about real estate, to the average Joe out there, the only thing that comes to their mind is buying and selling a property, you know, nothing more to it. But here you are with that bigger purpose to it. So correct me if I'm wrong, you're not focused on, okay, yes, the buying and selling is there, but this is more about creating a culture within your own organization and then also educating other people in their organizations in the real estate industry. That's where we're going with this.
Yeah, ultimately, definitely. So ReAlto Partners, that's my team name, and then we're part of a bigger organization called EXP. That's the actual brokerage. And so one of the cool things about the way we're set up is it gives me the platform to be able to do exactly what you just talked about. So yeah, I've got ReAlto Partners, but I also have another partner, a friend of mine, who runs a team that specifically focuses on real estate investing. And so him and I communicate on a regular basis about how to improve our teams and how to improve our systems and processes. He's got another team that he's about to bring on. And so, yeah, ultimately it's about expanding that reach. And I've also got other partners here in Colorado, they're building teams and stuff. And so, yeah, it becomes more than me. And that's what I love about it. I always tell my team, my goal here is to become irrelevant. I want you guys to be like, yeah, we outgrew you. And that's what I want. And so for me, it's kind of funny. I'll just share the story really quick. A year or two ago, I kind of got to the point on the team where I was just like, I was bringing people over and I wasn't being super intentional about it. And then I was like, I want to be more intentional about this because I want to bring over the right person. So I started asking myself, who's the right person? And so I got really, really selfish. And I was just like, okay, forget what anybody else says. If I had to sit next to somebody in a cubicle for the rest of my life working on whatever, what do I want that person to look like? And so I defined what that person looked like, acted like, how they handled adversity, how they communicated. I thought about all of these things. And I was like, that's the person I want to be connected with. And so then I took it to the team and I said, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they're like, this is great. If everybody acted like this would be a great place to work. And I'm like, okay, cool. So that helped me paint the picture for who I wanted to work with. And it gave me very clear vision for who I was going to bring onto the team. And I say all of that because at the end of the day, yes, my goal is to help other people grow and build their businesses and, build something for themselves and their family and whatever. But I'm also here for me. I want to grow. I want to get better. I want to be challenged. I want to be surrounded by people who inspire me to be better at what I do and force me to grow, force me to stay uncomfortable so that I can get better over time.
Yeah. I love what you said earlier on, that you want to see, the people that you coach, because I mean, that's how I see you, a coach within the industry. You want to see them, do better than you ever did. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. Because I mean, I feel the same way. Why am I here on this podcast? We here to educate, people out there listening, how they can become a better version of themselves, as you said, and live your best life. My purpose is to be here behind this mic on this podcast, sharing whatever knowledge I can with phenomenal guests such as yourself, but go out there into the world and become the best version of yourself, even if it's way better than I could have ever imagined for my own life, financially, branding wise, anything of the sort. I respect that. That's like a true calling, and that's only for a selective few, and that is our purpose.
You're right.
Yeah.
And just to touch on that really quick, I agree that there is all too few people who are really leaning into this kind of thing. And I imagine that you probably had some sense of imposter syndrome as you started this show, or as you started to kind of advise people or talk about these things. For me, there was a moment where I was just like, who cares what Dan thinks? Who am I? By the way, I'm just regurgitating stuff I learned from other people. So I'm obviously not that special, right?
Mhm.
And so for me, that kind of slowed down my progress. And then I started thinking about it for a minute. And I'm like, okay, let's look at some big influencers. Ed Milet, Gary Vee, whatever. Name whoever you want to name. And, I will never do what they do. And they will never do what I do. And so I finally landed on this idea that it doesn't matter if I'm doing it right or wrong. What matters is I'm talking about how I can make myself better and how I can help make the world better. I'm leaving it better than I found it. And no matter how effective I am at that, if that's what my goal is and that's what I'm trying to do every single day, it will inherently make the world a little bit better. And if everybody was doing it, think of how amazing the world would be. If everybody had a podcast, if everybody was talking about how to make themselves better, if everybody was having these conversations. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, oh, I love this podcast. This is so great. I love taking this stuff in. Oh, but I would never be able to do that. I would never. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Get out there. Go make the world better. Do it through your artwork. Do it through your music. Do it through whatever creative outlet that you have, and do it in your own way and do it with pride, because you're trying to make the world a better place. We need more people feeling confident enough to get out there and start their own podcast. It's not a flooded market. You don't have to have 1 million subscribers.
Yeah.
You might change one person's life because they watched one episode. So, I just like to promote that idea that there's never too many people talking about how to make themselves in the world better.
Yeah. I mean, it sounded to me like Gary Vee, speaking to me right now. We definitely on the same frequency in life. It's crazy how you mentioned Gary Vee. It was when COVID hit, I was also like, I wouldn't say I was doing bad in life, but let's just say I wasn't doing what I'm doing now. And then COVID hit, and self-reflection kicked in. And then I came across Gary Vee for the first time ever, on YouTube.
Yep.
And started checking out his videos, watching and listening to his videos. Then I bought his book, Crushing It. And by reading that book, that led me to actually starting off the podcast. And I actually started it off the same day I read that chapter in the book. I got this cheap ass condenser mic, Yeah, I use my phone, for video, to record. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this off. Let's give it a shot, And I went for it. The first show was like, why I'm here, what I want to do, what's my purpose, what's the long-term agenda with this show. And that was 2020. 2021, 2022, 2023, it was only Kino and the mic. That was it. That was it. There wasn't no video. I wasn't doing any video. It was like completely audio, but I remained consistent. The importance of consistency. The simplest thing anybody could ever have in their life is consistency, but whatever your goal may be. And imagine that 3 years of consistency has led me now to this conversation with someone like you.
Yeah.
Leave off at the end, it takes time.
Yep.
It really does take time to build whatever you are attempting to build or to achieve whatever you are attempting to achieve. So all that I mean is, side notes, for the listeners out there. So many creators, start off well. They either listen to the podcast or they reach out to me. And then, I set up an appointment with them through my consulting agency. And they come in and they say, okay, I want to get this going for my creative career, mainly focused now on, in the music industry. I've like branched out into the book industry as well, and that's building momentum. But they'll get going and they amped up and they pumped up, I set them up correctly. We get them in the studio. They get their first release out there. And then like a month later, oh no, Kino, I don't think this is for me, because they're looking at all the wrong, would you say finance as a metric? Yeah, maybe, cool. They're looking at that, right? They're looking at, oh no, I'm not earning enough out of, what I've put in, but that's just the industry and that's how it is. You have to diverse your income in this industry. That's how you're going to sustain yourself. But it doesn't mean that you need to give up. And my answer to them is that, look, if you are giving up on this right now, right here, it means that you weren't really passionate about it in the first place anyway. Your heart wasn't in it. You were doing it or got into it for the wrong reasons.
Yep.
Yeah. And they never get back into it.
Well, and when you talk about consistency, this is across the board. It doesn't matter what vocation you're talking about. Music, real estate, education, all of it. Health and wellness and diet, meditation, morning routines, all of these things, right? These are all opportunities to be consistent. And like you said, it's so simple. Wake up, do it today. Wake up, do it today. Wake up, do it today. It's simple, but it's really freaking hard. And, what I have found is that is the biggest. I've heard this from so many people and I've experienced it myself and I've experienced it as a team lead. Consistency is the number one thing that anybody needs to be successful in any facet of their life. I don't care if you're trying to fix a relationship. You have to consistently work on yourself. You have to consistently go to counseling. You have to consistently communicate with your partner. You have to consistently get better at communicating. If you want to get better at eating, you have to consistently wake up and eat the right thing in the morning. There's consistency is everything. And it's so simple, but it's difficult because, when we look at even just like the real estate industry, it's a very long process. Somebody says, I'm thinking about buying or selling. Well, it could be anywhere, from 3 months to, 3 years before they actually complete those transactions. And so it's a very slow thing. And you just have to be consistent without any positive results. Or you'll have some positive results, but they're very small. And you have to pick up those little breadcrumbs and be like, good enough for now, good enough for now, good enough for now, good enough for now, until you actually get what it is that you want. But, I would imagine when you're breaking into the music industry or as an author, like I said, I've written a couple books and, I just kind of give them away as like a fancy business card at this point. Really, it's hard to make money on it. If I was really serious about it, I really wanted to do something about that, then you can't just try for a month or two and hope that it pans out. It's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight. That it just doesn't happen. And even when it appears that somebody else did it overnight, you're wrong. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg. You didn't see all the other stuff that happened to get that lucky break. They got really lucky because they were consistent long enough that they were in the right spot at the right time. That's
Yeah.
what got them lucky. So
You never see the early mornings, the late nights,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
how that individual actually got there. Just when you mention, your books, which is, I also wanted to touch on that as well. I mean, even the authors that I chat to, and some of them, we've become really good friends. I even started bringing our publicists onto the show. But I mean, even the ones that are consistently at it each and every single day, I mean, even they are still, struggling financially. And if you're not signed to a mainstream publisher who's going to give you an advance and you're independent, where most authors want to be at the present moment in time, it does come with a lot of hardship as well for them. But they still wake up each and every single day, just like us, and they just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. And I truly believe, that you need to be humble. You need to practice humility. Humility was also something that I learned from Gary Vee, and I practiced a lot from the moment I heard him speaking about that, because practicing humility really does take you a long way. And I start implementing, integrating all of that into my life. And what I learned is that, from a spiritual point of view, when you're truly passionate about what you're doing, God will provide for you. That's what I truly believe. Sometimes we can wake up in the morning with these anxious thoughts about how I'm going to pay the mortgage or the rent or put food on the table, especially, if you have a family. Those anxious thoughts can really creep in and affect your life in a negative manner. But what I've come to learn is that, God will always provide, as long as He knows that whatever you're attempting to do, you're doing it wholeheartedly. And that's how it honestly works out for me. I don't come onto the show and tell people that I'm a multimillionaire. No, I never come onto the show to make millions of dollars. If I do, cool. It's a plus. It's a plus. But it wasn't my calling in life, because I mean, I see so many multimillionaires out there. Like I always say, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being a business owner. Like anybody can go out there and start a business, or buy a business for cheap, and get the correct people to manage the business and make millions out of it. But I've seen so many of them still so unfulfilled because it wasn't what they really wanted to do with their life. They did it because that's what the system said they needed to do. Go out there, make loads of money. But while making loads of money, you need to ask yourself, like, am I really happy, like, doing this? You know, and most of them are, like a good percentage, high percentage of them aren't. They're just living this like miserable life day by day, yet they still got so much money. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, you really need to follow your heart, do stuff you're
yeah.
passionate about.
And
Yeah,
you
I
see
remember
that,
if you,
you see
yeah,
that everywhere. You see that in real estate, and you know, one. I'm actually participating in a we call it a high level mastermind group for team leaders in real estate, and people from all across the country. There's only about 40 of us, so it's a really amazing group. Um, but one thing that I'm discovering from this group is exactly what you were just talking about. I believe we can travel into the future if we just choose to see what other people are experiencing and put ourselves into their position and say, okay, this is the path I was headed. This is somebody who's done that path. This is the result they're getting. Is that the result that I want? So we have the ability to travel into the future by communicating with other people and learning from other people. And I share all of that because as part of this group, I had a vision for where I wanted to go before I joined the group. And after being part of this group for almost a year now, I'm starting to discover I don't think that is what I wanted. There's things that I see where I can look into my future and go, man, I don't think I'm willing to either put in the work that's required to get that, or even if I did put in the work, I don't know if that's the result that I really want anyway. And so for me, it's shifted the way that I'm viewing my business and the direction that I'm going. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if I have $1 bazillion. Like you said, I would love to have it, but How I get there and whether I enjoy the journey is more important to me.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will say, like one thing that has really helped me when I'm having a hard time getting motivated, especially when fear is creeping in. You wake up in the morning, you just don't feel like being consistent. You don't feel like doing the things that you need to do. A lot of times, what I come back to is, or when I feel, I would say, out of control. Nobody's calling me back. Nobody's selling their house right now. Interest rates went up again. Or, whatever it is, stuff that's out of my control.
Yeah.
When I get caught up in that, I always come back to, what do I have control over right now? Not even today, right now. What do I have control over? Sometimes it's my mindset. Sometimes it's just reframing the situation. That's all I have control over. Sometimes I can go make phone calls. Sometimes I can talk to people and invite them out to lunch. Sometimes I can connect with my team. Sometimes I can yada, 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 whatever it is. We always have control over something. If you look at Nelson Mandela, who had no control over any facet of his life, spent nearly 30 years in prison for no reason other than a political bias,
Yeah.
he still had control over his mind. And he seized control over what he had control over. And he changed the world in a very positive way because of it. That's the power of focusing on what we have control over versus allowing the stuff out here to dictate how we feel, how we operate, who we are, what we're capable of. That's nonsense. We get to choose that. Our inner experience is ours, and nobody gets to change that. So anyway, sorry, I know I kind of went down a rabbit hole there, but really all I'm trying to say is, if you're having a hard time getting up and moving, just focus on what you have control over, because there's something that you can do to move your business forward today and stay consistent today. Don't worry about tomorrow. Isn't it AA?
Yeah.
They say you don't have to stop drinking for the rest of your life. You just have to stop drinking today. It's the same thing. For the rest of your life, you just have to be consistent today. That's it.
Yeah. Thinking about the future brings on anxiety. Thinking about the past brings on depression.
Yeah.
I was, before I actually came on the show, one of many books I'm reading, one of it is called From Anxiety to Awakening. And there was a chapter on that, like you can't control it all. So just let it be, stop trying so hard to control what you can't control,
Right.
And, just to add to that also, which has also worked for me, I should also feel bad about myself if I woke up in the morning and I just wasn't in the mood, to do anything. I should feel bad about myself, but no, I need to push myself. I need to be productive today. But then I came to the realization, after, as you said, learning from other people, reading, that it's okay to wake up in the morning and feel that way. Give yourself that time out, relax, do something, don't be productive. Take your mind off whatever the work may be.
Yeah.
We'll give it another shot tomorrow. Go watch a movie, read a book, take a walk. It's okay. And the best ideas or the solutions to the problems you may have may come to you in that moment of
Right.
just giving yourself, that distance.
Well, and I actually practiced that right before I came on this call. So Wednesday mornings, this is a Wednesday, we had our team meetings. So I've been on team meetings all morning. Had a half an hour, 25-minute window in between that and this. And I got my laundry list of things that I need to get done. And I'm like, yeah, screw that. Like, I need like a break. And so I went and I sat on my front porch on the steps and just let the sun hit me in the face for about 15 minutes and just drank some water and just kind of relaxed and just didn't do anything, just kind of was just being. And not only did it reset not that I was in a bad place, I was fine, right? I could have easily pushed through it, but I was just like, I don't feel like pushing through right now. I need a break. And so I just took a break. But what I found was I was way more energized and ready to go. I was more fresh for this call because I actually took a time out versus pushing through everything. And so I think that's great advice. Giving yourself the opportunity to take a time out is huge. You might actually find that you've got more energy, get more done. And by the way, maybe you can relate to this. I found out through real estate that I can get more done in 1 hour than I used to. I used to think I can get more done in 1 hour than I ever thought possible if I'm hyper focused. So if I take half an hour to chill and like get recentered and then just get after it for an hour, I can get as much done in that hour than if I'm all exhausted and it takes me 4 hours to do the same amount of work because I'm not focused. So whatever you need to do to get focused, you can get a lot done in an hour and then take a break and then do another hour and take a break. And you can get a lot done that way. And you're not working 90 hours a week.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all that you have said. Back to real estate. From when you started off and how the real estate market is now, with what you do, have you seen change happen, like cultural change happen?
Cultural change, like within the industry?
Like, have you seen okay, let me use an example, okay, from my corner of the world. I've had so many issues with real estate agents or property managing agents, within South Africa because they just are so full of crap, They're just so full of crap. It's all about money, it's lies, it's deceit, they're not fully transparent with you. Like there is no culture at all. Like I know people first philosophy that comes directly from your company. You don't get that, you know, you don't get that anymore. Yes, corporate culture is changing gradually, slowly, depending which country we're looking at. But
Right.
where I'm sitting at the moment, it's like really slow, you know? So that's an example like I want to use, like how you found the industry when you first entered it and how you view it now,
Yeah.
as your work like made an impact. Have people started changing, to that sort of mindset, your way of looking and viewing it?
That's a great question. And I would say yes and no. So, first of all, real estate's it's always going through some kind of cycle. Right now, at least here in Colorado, we've got interest rates are higher and, you're getting this huge amount of real estate agents that are leaving the industry. They're all the part timers. They're all the people who weren't taking it seriously. They were the people, quite frankly, were a thorn in my side because they didn't take the job seriously and they're, in a very stressful situation. And I ended up doing both of my job and their job. Right. So thankfully, a lot of them are leaving. And that in and of itself is changing the culture. You're left with more of the professionals. But, um, it's funny. I try to teach a lot of stuff on mindset to real estate agents. And I find oftentimes it falls on deaf ears. It's hard to get people to show up to something where it's like, the problem isn't your lead gen system. The problem isn't your AI tool. The problem is you. You're not getting the results that you want. The only consistent thing in your life for every result you have is you. Nobody likes to hear that, or very few people like to hear that. And so I am trying to change that culture. I am trying to change that conversation and get people to recognize that the more they work on themselves, the more money they're going to make. So there is still a very heavy presence of going back to Gary Vee's book name, crush it, go kill it, go make a ton of money. And man, it's good to an extent, but it's still pretty overplayed in real estate, in my opinion. However, I do think that, especially as the market is going down, we'll say it's not really going down, but let's just call it a slower market. People have to kind of go in. They have to start thinking: is this something I really want to do? Is this something I can do? Is this something I'm willing to put up with the pain to stick with? And just having those internal conversations changes the way people see themselves and sees their business. And so I do think that is actually changing the culture a little bit. People are recognizing a little bit more that they do have to fix some stuff in here if they want their business to improve. And it's also forcing people to develop stronger relationships, because if you don't have strong relationships with people in real estate, you don't make money. And I think that, when the market was hot, you could be an idiot and still sell a house because everybody was buying. Now you need relationships. You have to have that relationship or they won't hire you. And so that's also changing the culture. It's forcing people to really bridge that gap and provide top shelf service, or else they're going to go out of business.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know, you real estate, uh, small companies. Some, I was friends with when I was in school, but I know for a fact like they only got into the industry to make money.
Right.
That's the goal. Property is the way, we are going to make. And I mean, the commissions are quite high, you know, quite high. So, I'm going to let me convert this to dollars, right? So, in average sale in South Africa, commission is 35,000 Rand. That averages about like say $2,000. Now, 35,000 Rand in South Africa is a lot just to be the middleman on a sale, because there's not a lot of like work that really goes into it from the agents that I have come across and that issues with, in my life. There's not a lot that really they actually do. They don't put a lot into marketing. Someone will be looking for a property. They'll reach out to them. Okay, yeah, no, I got this apartment. I got this house. Let me take it. Let me take it through. Have a look at it. They will sell you a bunch of lies. Bullshit. Excuse the language, but is what it is. And then the seller buys into it, and they get that 35,000 Rand, that's it, plus minus $2,000. That's your commission, excluding, the basic salary that you're getting each and every single month. So look, I mean, in South Africa, if I do about 2-3 houses a month, I mean, that's good money for me, and that's what it's always been about. But I mean, even before lockdown, as I told you, there was a life before all of this. Like I was always in the entertainment industry, but it was always percent. Mind the language again, all these corporate assholes that I used to work for. Yeah, cool. I developed and I built a good career for myself, 50% of my life, and it paid to finance the other 50%, which was my passion. But culture was just terrible, it was just terrible and so depressing. You didn't want to be there. And I feel like most people are there, out of desperation and just for the wrong reasons. And I feel like from a human point of view, like it's so sad, you know.
Well,
From I'm glad there's guys like you out there that's changing that,
well, yeah. To that point, first of all, that sucks that was your experience. Seriously, like it drives me crazy that my cohorts in the industry do stuff like that, because we see that here too, right? It's everywhere. You look at any career path anywhere, and you got the people who excel, the people who do it right, the people that take advantage, all that stuff, right? And so it always drives me crazy when I hear stories like that. And at the same time, here's what I'll say. That's not indicative of the entire industry. There are people who will work their tail off for you. There are people who will make it obvious why they're getting paid what they're getting paid. There are people who will put your interests first. There are people who are going to do everything that they can to make sure your experience is so good that you refer them to somebody else, because that's how they keep their business growing. So yes, there are people that operate that way that you were describing, which is terrible. Like it makes my life harder, because you have a-holes in the industry that, create that kind of perception. But once again, going back to what I was talking about in the very beginning, real estate is a very powerful vehicle if we choose to lean into it. Yeah, you can use it to just go make a bunch of money. Sure. And I know people that do that. And I don't think they're the happiest people I know. Most of them are pretty bitter and jaded because all they do is work. And I've been there. I've had times in my career where I was exceptionally busy and making lots of money, and it was maybe it was the most miserable I have ever been in my career. So, but there's always going to be people that do that. But at the same time, it's also a powerful vehicle, not only to make money, but to improve your life. It's also a great vehicle to be able to give back to your community and to be a resource for people. Like
Yeah.
I get paid to be a resource to help navigate something that is excessively stressful, that is very complicated and complex. Like I'm here to make your life easier, essentially. And I get to impact your life in a positive way through our interactions in a real estate transaction. So once again, going back to our tagline, it's improving lives through the vehicle of real estate. That's what I'm talking about, and that is my goal, is to continue to pursue that and to continue to push that and to remind people that the money is great and the money is necessary. However, you're going to go a lot further and you're going to enjoy the journey a lot more if you focus on improving your life and improving the lives of the people that you serve. And if you just come from that place, you cannot turn off the faucet in real estate. Like people will just keep coming to you. And it's funny, I don't know. It's sometimes you have to just beat that into people's heads. They just don't get it. Well,
I agree with that. You need to make an impact. You really need to make an impact. Like for me, I mean, if you're a real estate agent, you need to make an impact. Whoever is your client, you need to ensure that they are 200% happy when they are transacting and, dealing with you. Because in the event, that one day, let's just say they want to sell the place that they actually purchased from you, they will contact you, or they want to invest further, they will contact you. Like I strongly believe in building long-term relationships.
right.
That's that's part of my own personal culture.
Well, I understand what you do, in your business with the consulting and the coaching. It's nearly identical to what I do.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about building relationships and helping people get what they want. And, like the more people you help get what they want, the more you get what you want. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. And we both following the same values, principles, basic ways of going about life, yet in two different industries, but yet still being creatives, within society.
Right.
Hence why we're having this conversation. Yeah, no. Then let's conclude with your books. Let's mention your books.
Yeah.
Would you love to name them, and why did you want to write them?
Yeah. So the first book that I wrote was called "I'm Full of It and So Are You. Let's Change the World Together." So the concept of that book is that it's you're impacting the world whether you try to or not, through this conversation, through the way you drive, whether you choose to flip that person off or not, the way you interact with the barista at the coffee shop. Everything that we do has an energetic value. It changes the world. And so if we're going to change the world, whether we're trying to or not, just our existence changes the world. Why not be intentional about how we change the world? And in order to be intentional about how we're going to show up in the world, we have to understand who we are. So it's really about going inward. It's about understanding who we are, where we come from, what our stories are, and then through that understanding, developing that understanding of ourselves, gaining a clearer vision of like how we're going to move forward. So that's kind of the concept of that book. I wrote that one because it was my first kind of brain dump of all the stuff that was in my head, like it just was like burning in me. Just like, man, if people would just try to be better, the world would be so amazing. We just need more people trying to make themselves better. So go inward, figure out like, yeah, great. You had some crappy experiences when you were a kid. This happened and that happened. But eventually you got to stop playing the victim. You got to stand on your own 2 feet and you got to go do something about it, right? Like, how are you going to change your story? You have your story. Your past makes you depressed is what you said, right? And then the future makes you anxious. So let's go into the past and let's step on it and be like, cool, this was my training ground and I've already been through it. I've been trained to handle adversity now. Awesome. What am I going to do about it? So that's kind of what that book is about. And then the other one is it's a real estate book. It's just called the Spear Marketing Handbook. So it's a book that I put together for my team because they kept asking me the same questions. How do I build a business? And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put this on paper so I can just hand it out to people. It's not much more a business strategy book, but I think it would apply very well. And you can get a free copy of it on my website. I think you can get it on ReAltoPartners.com.
I actually signed up. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
When I went to the website, yeah. I love to get a copy.
Yeah. So it's about marketing to people that you already know, and that's really what it is. And it applies to real estate. It could apply to lenders. It could apply to insurance. It could apply to what you do. It's really just about marketing yourself to people that you already know and building those relationships so that you can increase your business.
Building relationships. I love that. Building, like nothing is stopping us, anyone listening right now, just from being a good human. How hard is it?
Right.
What's it taking away from you just to be a good person? But unfortunately, we've been so brainwashed and influenced by politics and influenced by what else is there besides politics these days?
Social media, news outlets, right? The usual suspects.
Negativity, mainstream media, learning when to turn off, all the noise that's going on in the world, controlling your algorithm on your phone. Like, if you are going to search for positive content, you are going to continuously get positive content. But if you are going to continuously, get involved in all the negative noise of the world, that's all that's going to be popping up on your phone on a day-to-day basis, no matter which social media platform you are going on to. So stop consuming all of that. Nothing is stopping us. So besides going onto your website and getting a free copy of your book, is your book also available for sale on Amazon?
It is, yeah. Yeah, on Amazon. Both of them are. I'm full of it, and so are you. And the Sphere Marketing Handbook, they're both on Amazon. Yep.
Okay, cool. I will share both links. So one last question. Your footprint, is it just based in the States or is it global?
That's a really good question. So that's one of the cool things about EXP. Actually, there's a couple from South Africa that's in that group that I was telling you about.
Oh, okay.
That coaching group that I've been part of. So we actually have, I actually have some connections in South Africa. So, we're a global company. We're in 24 different countries. And the cool thing is, actually, I think it's 26 now in all 50 states as well. So we've already got agents on our team who are in Wisconsin, Texas, California. So, we can expand. And so we're always looking for good people. If there happens to be somebody watching this who's in real estate and is like, yeah, I want to connect with somebody like that, I would love to talk to you and see if what we're doing is a good fit, because we want to continue to grow with the right people and keep this momentum going forward. And if we can branch out into other countries as well, awesome. That would be great.
Yeah. I would love, once this episode is actually uploaded, to share this with a few real estate companies, even the ones that I've had issues with.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
Yeah. That's why I am here. I need to share this, when it comes to my target marketing to the people involved in real estate. But not only the people in real estate, but also, the average Joe out there, especially in South Africa, there's so much issues going on at the moment with it's called subsectional, right? Meaning, it's a block of units. It falls under the subsectional law in South Africa. There's just so much issues in that area at the moment. And those issues were caused by real estate agents in the first place.
Right.
So, owners now within these schemes, which is what, it's called here, are starting to now educate themselves, starting to get more awakened and realize, hey, this doesn't make sense to me,
Right.
So I would also love to share this conversation, with them, and look what people like Dan are actually doing, so they can also wisen up.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I hope they do. You know, going back to what you said earlier, it's not hard or it's not complicated. It's simple. It's just
yeah,
hard and it takes consistency. And you put other people first. And the last thing that I'll say on that front is the growth is slower, but it's more sustainable. So I know people who have built their businesses way faster than mine, but as soon as they stop running as fast as they can, as soon as they stop sprinting, their business dries up like that because they don't have anybody who actually cares about them because they're not building relationships. For me, I actually tried to walk away from real estate, to be totally honest, because I was burned out and I couldn't because my phone wouldn't stop. People were like, "Hey, I need your help. I need your help. I've got somebody to refer you to." So that's the difference. You know, when you take care of people and you build relationships, you can't turn it off, but it takes a lot more time to get started, which I think on the front end, that's why a lot of people don't do it. They're like, I need leads, I need leads, I need leads, I need leads. And I'm like, no, you don't. You need to build relationships and then wait and build more relationships and then wait and then build more relationships. And then eventually you'll have a faucet that you can't turn off. So it's a different mindset, you know.
Man, you are a philosopher when it comes to this industry. Honestly. Yeah, to conclude, what message would you give to the real estate industry globally right now?
I think we've already touched on a lot of it, you know, put people first, And that's real estate and that's any other industry. The golden rule, treat people how you want to be treated and be a professional, you know, like if you're going to call yourself a professional in any facet, I don't care what industry, be a professional, understand what you're talking about, be a resource for people. Don't expect to get paid because you spent a little bit of time in some online course. You get paid because you become a resource. So become a resource. That's one way that you can really take care of people. But at the end of the day, if we are inward, go inward to fix ourselves and then be outward focused in how we can serve. Like if we do that, man, you'll do just fine in any industry.
Yeah. Give value, you know, always give value. Dan, thank you so much. I'm not sure if there's any last words from you.
No, I'm good. I really appreciate this. Was a really good interview. You had great questions. I appreciate you.
Yeah, man, you know, it always happens. You know, I gotta say, it always happens. Like, we set up the shows to be between 30 minutes to 45 minutes, but you know what? Like, once I get into it, you know, and really does it happen where there's no guest that, you know, I don't connect with, you know, like the way we have connected throughout the show. So it always goes to the hour mark, but I love it.
Yeah.
You know, I absolutely love it. Dan, thank you so much for your contribution to the real estate industry, to humanity, to the creative industry. Much love, brother. Much love.
Thank you. Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much, and please enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye.
All right, see ya.